Greetings and blessings to you all. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and honor of the infinite creator. Now, this is a subject that probably some folks will go, Hawkeye, what are you talking about this for? And I mean, you're usually talking about spiritual things and all. Hey, Chloe. Um, and so cluster bombs. Interestingly enough, I tried several times to go online with this live stream just to talk about why, in my personal belief, they're pushing these cluster bombs when they're illegal in 100 different countries. Okay. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Now, why is the U.S. even making these things if they're illegal? And why is the United States pushing cluster bombs? I'm going to put it to you really simply and succinctly. The U.S. has made a bunch of these things, and they happen to have an overstock of them. What? What? Yeah, they have piles of these bombs sitting somewhere, and the longer they sit without being used, munitions go bad. I'm not so much about lighting. Hey, Scotty boy. So munitions go bad. What? Yeah, the stuff inside the bombs will decay and get bad, and one of them suckers just might go off on their own wherever they're stored. And it costs money to store them. So why in the world would the United States be pushing cluster bombs at this particular time? They need to get rid of inventory. It's all about money. Remember, it's all about money. Oh, we there not to count that the cluster bombs seem to me like a horrific way of bombing folks. I mean, bombing anybody in any direction. Bomb goes off, it blows things up. It's horrible. It's horrific. So we have these things that drop these clusters of little bombs everywhere. What? We don't have enough ways to kill each other. But cluster bombs in the city is stupid. And in some of these areas where they're fighting the Russians, it's hand to hand inside a city. Well, not all of these things go off. If they have a 10% failure rate, you go, wow, that's not too bad. In manufacturing industry and everything, if you have a 10% scrap rate, that's considered okie dokie. So if 10% of 100 bombs don't go off, that's 10 bombs. You go, well, wait a minute, but 90 of them went off. Yeah, but 10 of them are sitting somewhere that have not exploded. So there are children, there are dogs, there are animals, there are things, there are people, and that's the reason why they have been banned in 100 countries. So now the president of the United States is in the UK right now, and they're probably having meetings on some of this. Should we send them or should we not? Why are they bringing this up anyway? There's enough ways to kill people, but why does the US want to give them? That's the issue. Okay, that's the issue. It's because they have too many of them. Why do we have too many of these bombs that are illegal in 100 countries? It's because they're illegal in 100 countries. The US, whoever is making these things, does not have a market to sell their munitions. What? Oh, we made all these damn things thinking we could sell them, but now we can't sell them because 100 countries say we you can't use them. So why did the United States, with an illegal thing, banned or did they? Why did they make them? Why is there a stockpile of these in the United States? Who's supposed to be the grandiose? We're the ones that are supposed to be telling folks how to act proper in the United. How do we act proper in the United States? The United States is the model. So why do we have a stockpile of these suckers? And why do we want to give them to the Ukrainians? Because The people who made them hoping to sell them, the munitions are starting to go bad. They gotta get rid of them. Either that or they're just going to have to go drop them in the ocean somewhere, right, to get rid of them, which they won't do because they're bombs. No, we can't do that. Lord have mercy. We got to sell them to somebody. Hey, Miss Pearl, it's all about killing. After living through, I was born during the Korean War, okay? And then having kind of come out of that and then right into the Vietnam War. I'm 70 years old, as most of you know, but to the point though, why are we sending them bombs at all? Aren't grenades and rifle bullets enough? We've been sending different kinds of missiles and things. Now you want to send cluster bombs, but here's the thing. Why cluster bombs now? Why is the United States wanting to push them? It's because the arms manufacturers have to get rid of them. They're sitting around doing nothing. They're tired of storing them. This seems like a good excuse. They can send them over there and go, somebody's going to pay for this. And if it's nothing more than the fact that they don't have to pay, listen to this, they don't have to pay for storage for these bombs that they have get this, there's somewhere in the United States are a bunch of cluster bombs they want to send over there. What? We've got them somewhere. We've got these cluster bombs stashed someplace. I mean, there's a lot of munitions. When I came through years ago, 20 years ago now, um, came through the state of Nevada. Halfway through the state from Reno to Las Vegas, there's this little bend in the road. And I mean, this road goes on for hundreds of miles. And there's only one real bend in the road. And there's a munitions place where they stash bombs and things and stuff right in the middle of the state of Nevada. And there's acres and acres and acres and acres of where they have planted and buried munitions in case they need them, right? And there are other places that these bombs are buried, kind of thing. But here's the thing, we have enough ways to kill each other. So why cluster bombs? When 100 countries have said, no, 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 no. For whatever reason, we have learned how to kill each other with different kinds of munitions and bullets and different kinds of bullets and velocities and other kinds of bombs and things and stuff. And I mean, come on now. So why does the U.S., I'm really pissed about this at 2:30 in the morning, have been sort of PO'd about this for a little while, but it's like, but why are they pushing to give them, sell them, or whatever? It's because the United States is storing these puppies and they have made them with intentions of using them somewhere. And whoever was the smart manufacturer or of these things, um, hey, the cluster bombs is a good idea. And we drop these little bombs everywhere and they explode overhead. But what about the ones that don't explode? Not all bombs go off. So in residential areas, children have picked them up. I mean, that's why they don't like putting in landmines. Vietnam has still got landmines and children and people and animals are still losing limbs. Not as many because they blowed a bunch of them up by losing limbs on children and people and stuff from landmines that were set by both sides during the Vietnam War. So come on, let's use some cluster bombs on people. What, we don't have enough ways to kill people off? Aren't bullets and grenades and rockets enough? No, we gotta, but that's one issue. And it's the killing and it's the war, but why are they pushing it now? Because Whoever started making the cluster bombs, now I haven't gone back to find out when they started making them and when, but here's the point. If they made some of these munitions 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, they've been sitting in a warehouse somewhere. There's cost involved. All right. They have to keep these at a temperature so that the stuff inside them doesn't go bad. Like if it's a C4 or a dynamite or some kind of explosive in these little things, right? Something's got to set them off. There's got to be some kind of charge. Okay. So, if it's like a shotgun shell, you don't use a shotgun shell 20 years later because the shell might have gone bad in some way. Now, I know that, they are put in and all that, but the thing is that anybody knows that, you try to reuse. If you've got shells that are more than a couple of years old, you use them up or throw them away. You get some new shells that are fresher and more and have less likely a chance of going off, misfiring, or something like that. So cluster bombs are being stored and they have to be kept at a temperature and they have to be done this. They have to have people to watch them and so there is a unique cost just to store these bombs. So somebody somewhere has got a bunch of them and it's costing a lot of money just to store them. So why the cluster bombs all of a sudden? They want to get rid of these suckers because they're getting old and the blah 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 and the cost to keep them and all that. So why not use the Ukraine as the perfect excuse to get rid of munitions that we aren't legally we should not be using anyway? Okay? What? Yeah. I think they ought to take these cluster bombs out in the desert and fight some people to come and go, we're going to have an air show and we're going to drop all of our cluster bombs out in the middle of the desert. And then we're going to hire people to go out there and pick up the ones that did not go off. And it's going to be just a huge display like a 4th of July celebration. We're going to blow them all up because we don't want to hurt, harm, kill anyone. So we're going to drop these things out in the desert. Y'all can come watch. We're going to videotape, watch how good the United States is. We're going to get rid of these bombs that are, you know, banned in 100 countries. I mean, bombs are bad enough, but no, we're not banning all bombs. We're banning these bombs, particular. So it seems to me that the United States, if they want to show good faith to the world, take these things out in the desert and show everybody we're not going to send them anywhere. We're going to blow these old munitions up ourselves rather than send them to another country to blow people up and the older munitions. So 10%, if you've got 100 of these things and 100 of them, never ever is there 100% detonation. So why not out of 100, 10 of them don't go off? That's a really good average, actually. 90% of them exploded, not bad. But what about those 10 out of 100? And so you drop a couple of these bombs with hundreds of things in them, and now there's 1,000 of them. So now that there are 1,000 of these little clusters, and now your 10% is now 100 of them didn't go off. Okay, so pay attention. This 10%. So we drop 100 of them. That's only 10. Not bad. We dropped 1,000 of them, and at 10%. Ooh, that's still good. That's still a good average, but that means 100 of them didn't go off. So folks aren't paying attention to the numbers, number one. And we still need to drop things to kill people. And why should the United States be at the forefront of pushing murderous ways to kill people? Well, we want to kill them Russians, you know, so we're going to use cluster bombs because nothing else has worked. And the United States, oh, the great United States, maybe if we use these cluster bombs, the Russians will back off. Well, what about the bombs that are dropped by them, not by us? They're going to drop them at their discretion where they think is necessary. So we give them the bombs to use at their discretion, pay attention. So they could drop one of these things over the city, right? They could drop one of them over wherever they wanted to drop them. So you got 100 soldiers you want to get rid of. So you drop one bomb with 1,000 of these suckers in there that are going to explode and get rid of these troops. We want to get rid of these 100 troops. So we got to drop 1,000 bombs, right? So out of that 1,000, there's 100 that don't work. Pay attention to the numbers. And so as 10% sounds good, as far as, 90 of them went off versus, then so where does that leave the people that the bombs were dropped on? They're laying out in the field, they're laying somewhere, and that's the reason 100 countries have banned them. I don't have a call-in number, Floor. I'm just here doing a I'm PO'd about the United States wanting to, you know, um, um, press this issue. But the bottom line is money. They built these things 20 years ago, hoping that they would use them, and they haven't. It's costing them bukus of bucks to store these bombs. And the best way to get rid of them is to let somebody use them on somebody else. So, and Biden over there, hey, come on, let's use up these old bombs. He's a Democrat. When I was a Democrat, which I am not anymore, the Democrats, we're not the warmongers. It's the Republicans that want to blow everybody up. Yeah, but it was LBJ that made Vietnam, and it was a Republican who finally got us out of that mess. But okie doke. Um, yeah, it was the Republicans that got us into the Iraq situation. But guess who was one of the top warmongers during the Iraqi business stuff? Senator Joe Biden. Senator Joe Biden. So, who is now our president, right? So, who wants to sell these munitions and things? It's because they got to get rid of them. That's the bottom line. They've got to get rid of these old bombs that they've already made, that they're storing. Why didn't they get rid of them? If they're banned in 100 countries, why does the United States still have a stockpile of these things to be able to give to anybody? If they're banned in 100 countries, don't you think that they were a bad idea and we should have destroyed these bombs ourselves? Oh, hell no. There are millions of dollars invested in the bombs themselves. And now they've got millions of dollars, I would suspect, at least, in storing these puppies. And so, they can't just blow them up. They can't just throw them in the ocean. They can't. Well, why? Because it's millions of dollars. Well, can't you write it off as a tax write-off? I mean, it would seem to me that if these things are banned and you can't sell them, it seems to me you could get a tax break. I'm just saying. It seems to me that you could get a tax break. But no, the president is selling these things, cluster bombs, cluster bombs, cluster bombs. War, kill, kill, war, kill, kill. But why the cluster bombs now? It's very simple. It is right, Ed. Hi, how you doing? It is all about the money. It is all about the money. I mean, just to think, on how many of they must have a bunch of them. They want to get rid of them, right? Yeah, we're going to get these cluster bombs, and which are banned in 100 countries. But why? See, why cluster bombs? Why, why? Because they made these puppies, and because they're banned, they don't know what to do with them. So there's some munitions manufacturer somewhere who is saying, "Hey, President, actually the government kind of gave us an okay to build these things, and now we've got a bunch of them that we've got stored, and it's costing us a lot of money to keep these things from blowing up on American soil or wherever they've got them stored." Can you imagine how big of an explosion that would be? I can't, but here's to the point though. Somebody somewhere has said, we can't get rid of these things. We're storing them. It's costing us money. Help us out here. Hey Joe. Hey old Joe, you don't know where you're going anyway. Sell these things. Get rid of them for us. And he goes, okay, cluster bombs, okay, and off he goes. And here we are. Please talk to folks about this. If they're banned in 100 countries, why do we have them? That's what I want to know. Forget about sending them anywhere. If they're banned in 100 countries, why does the United States, and this is the one single question that we should all be asking just as a matter of reference, why do we have these things at all if they're banned in 100 countries? Why do we still have them? Period. That's all. From a moral standpoint, why do we still have them? Right. We should have a yard sale, cluster bombs for sale. But if for the United States standpoint of we are the moral superiority, why do we have them at all? That is the basic question. So, but anyway, that's my tirade. I just it's it's in the middle of the night here. It's almost 3 o'clock. Yeah, I understand, Chloe. She says, because the US don't care. They like to look superior. Well, we got all other different ways of blowing people up, and I mean there are different kinds of rifle shells and this, that, and the other thing, and different kinds of munitions. There's a lot of ways to kill people. But the fact that cluster bombs have been proven because 10% of them don't go off, that other people might run across these things like children and dogs and people and so the fact that there is a 10 to 15% rate of they don't all explode, uh yeah, we're not superior. No, at least not morally, because we number one, somebody says, what, I grew up in the days of napalm. All right. Watching napalm blow up the jungles and the people and things underneath those jellied gasoline bombs that went off. And there it's horrific. Now to watch them puppies go off and blow up and all of that fire and smoke and all of that killing and everything. But if you were on the ground, you know, what a horrific way to die. And it's like, well, we don't, well, they don't use napalm. Like, they still got it somewhere and they can make it easy. It's just jellied gasoline. Not real hard. It doesn't need a detonator, it just hits the ground. And so we think about all the people who were burned alive. Oh, but they were the enemy. But after all these years, they weren't really the enemy, were they? We were the enemy invading another country. And so, but we killed all those people in the name of war with jellied gasoline, burned the jungles and the people alive. Wow. So now, but we don't use that on cities and places and stuff, at least not as much, but we have other bombs that do that. So cluster bombs is in that area, But when the issue is a napalm bomb goes off, it goes off. And if it's near another one that doesn't go off, the jellied gasoline from the first one is going to set the other ones off. But anyway, so but these cluster bombs are tiny little bombs all by themselves, and they don't always all go off. That's the biggest issue. Not, it's killing people, and it's maiming people, and yeah, well, okay, never mind. Well, we're going to overlook that part because it's war and we got to kill and maim people. But it's the numbers. There's not enough people. Not enough of these things go off. So, and as Ed pointed out earlier, it is absolutely all about money. And so we should just look at each other and go, number one, if they're illegal in 100 countries, why does the United States have any of them? And why do we have enough that we want to send them to somebody else? And if we send them the old stock, does that mean that somebody else, that those munitions manufacturers, are they going to make more of these cluster bombs if they get rid of the old stock? So you got you got a bunch of baked beans on the shelf, and they've been there for 2 years. They're out of date. And you want to give them away, something, but you don't want to just throw them away. You want to do something with them. And so those baked beans, you can give them to a soup thingy, or you can give them to a blah, blah, blah. Well, what do you do with cluster bombs that are out of date? You give them to somebody, right? Tax write-off or something, right? But here's the thing. If you get rid of your old stock of baked beans, technically you should make more to replace them, right? So now cluster bombs are sort of baked beans and they're fart everywhere. But so you've got these cluster bombs that are out of date, got to sell them, got to get rid of them. And so, but then does that mean that that manufacturer who's been holding these things, do they make more of them? What? Yeah, so you get rid of the stock, but does that give the manufacturer the reason to say, well, we got rid of our old stock? We had 1,000 bombs and now we're down to 10. Well, that means we got to make 900 of them, to restock because we got to, keep a certain amount of stock available. Really? Now these are questions that I would ask, if I were a congressman or a senator. Like, you want to get rid of this stock, is that correct? Yes, sir. Well, then once you get rid of the stock, then what do you, well, of course we're going to go into production. We've got to replace that stock because, we've got a mandate that we're supposed to have 1,000 of these on the shelf at all times. Really? Well, who gave you the order? Well, we have a standing order with the United States government to have 1,000 of these bombs in stock at all times. Okay. Now, you folks might think, well, wait a minute, that's not really true. Oh, yes, it is. If you stockpile things. So, well, we might need these cluster bombs in the future. On whom? Well, maybe on our own people, but we're not going to say that, out loud. But why would you? So, you say, well, we got to have 1,000 of these on the shelf because our mandate orders that. It says in our contract, you will have 1,000 of these available to us at any time. So if we use 500 of them, that means you have to make 500 more to keep that stock of 1,000 on the shelf for us. What? Yes, yes, yes. That happens in the military. It happens all industry. You're supposed to have a certain amount of them on the shelf. And when you run out, what do? If Walmart runs out of baked beans, what do? They order them and to restock the shelf. So if Umpty Scrunch is the ones that have built these things, if you get rid of 1,000 of them and their order says to keep 1,000 of them on the shelf, you take all of their stock, they're going to restock. So who's making the cluster bombs? That would be number one, and go, sorry guys, you're out of business. Make something else, okay? Make paper mache balloons or something. That would be difficult, but paper mache balloons. Anyway, um, so basically, it is absolutely all about money. So we should stand up, and I typed certain things into the headline um, of this video, and it wouldn't take it. It wouldn't allow me to use cluster bombs and anything behind it. So I just typed in cluster bombs and went live. So, but before everybody says, "Oh yeah, let's get rid of those nasty Ruskies," the percentage of bombs that go off, just remember that that's not always going to kill a Rusky. It's not always going to kill that nasty Russian. It could kill civilians and other people too. That's the main concern that 100 countries have, banned these cluster bombs. So, but write your congressman, call them up and go, no, 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 no. Whoever's wanting to get rid of these things, no, 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 no. No, I don't agree. We should tell folks we do not agree with this. Whoever made the bombs, sorry, the United States should pay for those bombs, and they should have a 4th of July celebration somewhere out in the desert. They own a lot of, Nevada, like most of it. So just take them out in the desert and blow these puppies up. Show it on film. Invite people to come and watch from a distance with large screen TVs and the whole 9 yards. Hey, Barry, they make our enemy to fight and arm them well. Yep. And to me, cluster bombs just ain't it, for a bunch of reasons. I can't believe y'all are up. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and and I'm just here because a friend of mine woke me up at 1 o'clock, and I'm like, okay, I'm taking my meds and can't go to sleep, and I'm watching some of the news and stuff and about the cluster bombs, and like, just have to say something, and we all need to say something. We need to say no. If we Again, I will go back to those who just come in. Why do we have the cluster bombs if they're illegal? Why do we have them? Period. If they're illegal, why didn't we destroy them? If they were a bad idea, why didn't we as the United States get rid of them? That's all. But because it's all about money. Why do we have them in the first place? To give out, to sell, or whatever. Why do we have them in the first place? That should be the question. There shouldn't be people out there, well, should we send them to the Ukraine? That shouldn't be the question. Why do we have them in the first place? That should be the question. Why, these major news outlets and everything, I'm watching everybody, well, why should we send them? Well, they're illegal. Yeah, but why should we send them? Yes or no? Nobody's asking the simple question. Why does the United States have them to begin with? Somebody needs to ask that simple question. And I haven't, so far in all the news, and in Australia and the Sky News and this one and that one, no one up to this point has asked that simple question. Why does the United States have these bombs? Hey, CD, is that a D? Yeah. ACD, ACDC, AC, never mind. Hello. But why do we have them in the first place? Why do we have them to sell or to give away? Why do we, the United States, who's supposed to be morally supreme in all things, why do we have them in the first place? Really? you know? I mean, as an American, I'm going to kill people. About to dab. Ooh, I could help you with that. What time is it? 3:04. It's not a 20 yet, but we can make it a 20, right, CD? We don't need a reason to dab, right? So, for those folks who might have tuned in just to find out what my personal opinion is and so forth, uh, is on it, I pretty much stated my opinion in the last 30 minutes. So if you have hung around this long, the next 30 minutes might simply be me and us yakking about some of this stuff. But so I pretty much made my point in the last 30 minutes. So anybody, you can still watch. I'm not telling you to, to go away, but that I'm going off script if there was a script to begin with. But I still, it blows my mind that all these people are talking about, oh, should the U.S. send them? And I'm thinking, should the U.S. even have them? Wait a minute. What? Send them? Wait a minute. Why do we have them? That was the first thing that has sort of popped into my mind about this. And, as I hope I'm a true American, but as an American, I think to myself, if these things are a bad idea, why didn't we just go ahead and blow them up ourselves and show our moral superiority? We made these bombs and then we found out that maybe that wasn't such a good idea. And so rather than take the chance of killing one more innocent civilian under any circumstance, because these cluster bombs that don't go off have been known to kill children and so forth. So what? So rather than take the morals, well, if we if there's a few of them still out there and somebody gets killed, well, that's sort of inevitable. We're sorry about that, but well, that's for the ones you've dropped already. But if you intend to drop more of them for any reason whatsoever, then Mr. Biden, if you give these things to the Ukrainians, you know, uh, and it kills one innocent person, one, then you, sir, should be held for murder. Period. Oh, well, we killed a bunch of soldiers. Yeah, okay, but then there was a civilian that got killed. Murder, murder charges. Sorry. You could say, well, it was during war. No, if you kill one innocent person because of your decision to send these bombs anywhere, anywhere, you, sir, should be held for murder because you knowingly sent these things to someone to kill soldiers, obviously, but inadvertently, because of the 10% don't all go off, and you kill an innocent life. Don't care who or where they are, you, sir, should be held for murder because you're on TV. You're over in the UK right now, wandering around, putting his hands on the king, what? Um, yeah, hey King, hey Charles, hey Charlie, come on, let's but anyway, watching that buffoon over there. Good God Almighty. What has the United States come to? But we've come to the point where we need to sell our old stock of munitions. And why not kill a few Ruskies? We don't care if any innocent people might get killed. We got old stock we really need to get rid of. or we're going to have a major explosion somewhere, and it might kill some of our own innocent people, because our storage unit went down, or blah, blah, blah. They forgot to pay the light bill or whatever. So, but anyway, um, it's a shame that it has to come down to cluster bombs. But personally, I think that people should be aware cluster bombs don't always work, and blah, 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 and do your homework. And why do we have them in the first place? And I just want to say, I, as an American, am against the cluster bomb. I know many of you here in the thing, man, if that was the case, all politicians would be done for. Thank you, CD. I'm watching the ABC after school special, Stoned from 1980. Is it any good, CD? After school special. Does it tell the truth or does it lie? But anyway, I've been here almost an hour. A hair sniffer. Yeah, that too. God, maybe he's into old monarchs as well. Is it hilarious? Is it near as much fun as watching, what was the old 1930s one about marijuana? Oh God. Anyway, that's hilarious. But because I can, and because YouTube allows me to still have a channel after all these years, I decided here at 3 o'clock in the morning, Reefer Madness. Thank you, CD. God, I saw Reefer Madness back at like 70, and it was funny then, especially on mushrooms. Actually, I think it was peyote. But yeah, the guy that's sitting in on the John in there, token off of that joint, and the look on his face and his eyes going wild. I just killer weed, and most of the time you, wow, man, is like this idea that he had to have been on crack. He was on cocaine or crack, which was very popular back in those days. I mean, they put it in Coca-Cola. Um, but him sitting on the John in there smoking that joint. I don't know what they gave that guy to look like that. He must have been on smack or something. I don't know. No, smack would be all droopy eyed. He had to have been on some kind of amphetamine. That's the reason he was smoking the joint. It was to calm him down. And for anybody that's been on weed that says, hey, jumping out a window is like a good idea, I'm sorry. Wow, man, you want me to jump out a window? Wow, man, I don't know. Let me smoke this joint and think about it. You want me to what? I'm going to run down this hall and dive out this window. Reefer Madness. Yeah. About as equal but different. Yeah, I didn't think it would be the same, you know. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows but Jesus. Anyway, yeah, as I smoke my pipe, what's in it, Mr. Dave? Ain't telling you. Is it reefer? Ain't telling you. Is it tobacco? Ain't telling you. What you smoking in that pipe, Mr. Dave? Tobacco. You ever seen anybody take a hit with tobacco like this? Watch this. I'm an expert at this. I've been smoking this pipe for the last 60 years. Okay, 55. I've smoked longer than some people are old. Isn't that a shame? I mean, somebody says, well, how long you been smoking? 13. How old are you? 70. Oh my God, there's stuff going off in the corner over here. Wow, that's weird. There are hearts and happy faces going on over here on the side. I've never seen that before. Chloe, is that you doing that? That's weird. I mean, I take a hit and I go, whoa, man, what's that going on over there in the chat room, man? It's fun. Yeah, I'm hanging out at 3:14 in the afternoon if you're over in England somewhere, I guess. No, it'd be morning over there. I was waiting to see if Richard would show up or anybody because they're all over there. What is this? This is Tuesday. Yeah, it's Tuesday. I'm supposed to go on a swimming. I'm supposed to have swimming exercises today if I make it to town. And if my truck works, fingers crossed. I had my new parts come in and I had to go up to my neighbors to go get them. And I don't have my horn doesn't work on my truck. So I pulled up, and because I sort of have a little bit of a noisy muffler, I revved up the engine a couple of times until they heard me and came out on the porch. Because, I was like, hey, neighbor, I don't have a horn, beep, beep. But yeah, because of my long driveway, the UPS or nobody will come down here and deliver packages to me. So it all ends up here at my neighbor's house up there where it's easy for them to drop off. But anyway, but yeah, I've got a swimming exercises later on this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And I'm looking forward to it. But the last time I did the water therapy, I couldn't walk for 2 days. So yes, I'm looking forward to my therapy, but I'm hoping that it doesn't take me 2 days to recover. You know, that water therapy is really good, and I have pushed so that I could get the water therapy, but I had no idea of how bad it was going to hurt me. Ooh, I'm going to bob up and down in the water, and it's going to be fun, and I'm going to walk on a treadmill, and it's not going to hurt me until I get out. Holy crap in a bag. I just, like, let me get in the pool and swim around a little bit and do these exercises. I'm all for it. But man, getting out and the next day and how bad your muscles are, and I'm 70, you know, that's got to be part of the issue too. But, I can tell that my back is, in my humble opinion, finally starting to come around. I mean, it still hurts to walk, and it's hard for me to stand up straight. I'm doing better, but am I pain free? No. Can I walk anywhere without hurting? No. Can I get up out of the chair without hurting? Nope. So, but the to the degree of pain, it's not as bad. But am I pain free? No, no. So, but actually, it's been so the middle of March, middle of April, May, June, July. It's only really been 4 months since my second operation. So I can jump up and down and bitch and complain and everything, but a friend of mine reminded me, who's had several back surgeries and heart surgeries too. He's like, Dave, it hasn't even been 6 months. And I was like, yeah, but they were telling me I was going to be paddling in no time. Well, what they meant by no time was 6 months or more. And, they were like, oh, man, no, you'll be up and at 'em in no time. Yeah, well, okay. I might be up and at 'em, but they didn't tell me it was going to hurt this bad. Now, but to the point, though, after 4 months, the pain is getting better. It's moving. I am able to get up and down. I am able to walk, but it's not pain free, is my point. So, all right. but there is progress. So, how you doing, Dave? There's progress. Are you pain free? No, but there's progress. And so, as I'm always talking about, never give up, never give in. Ooh, I'm loaded and ready for bear. It's almost 3:20. It's 4:20 somewhere over in Nova Scotia or somewhere. Where's Gypsy Man when you need him, right? So, but anyway, for 3:20, and I've been on for 50 minutes. I want to say I love you all. I do. Whether you're my subscribers or not, I'm always praying for y'all. And I'm praying for folks to like get a grip of some of this chaos that's going on. Why is the United States promoting cluster bombs? Money. Woo! Yohimbe. Is that you, Chloe? Putting them things up on the side. And so for the other people, that I put this particular video up, and if you've made it this far, obviously I stated my case the first 30 minutes. But hey, Ed, absolutely, Babylon is failing. Here's one, something. Now, I don't know if all of y'all know who Russell Brand is, okay? And I'm not necessarily a fan, but I'm beginning to be a fan. And somebody said, years ago, Russell Brand, this, UK, and he's crazy, and he's been in some movies and stuff and whatever, and he's been on talk shows. And Russell Brand, right? He's just crazy, long haired, speaks he's fine and everything. But um, he interviewed Tucker Carlson, and it was a very good interview. Russell Brand, what? That he gave an interview? What? To Tucker Carlson, one on one, sitting there and having and it was great. I was like, wait. I'm watching Russell Brand give an interview to Tucker Carlson on Rumble, tune in and watch. I happened to catch it after they were done, um, the live thing. But to the point, I was like, oh my God, he asked real questions. He presented himself in such a way, and that he and Tucker, got along, and they had this thing and this rapport. And I was like, oh my God, Russell Brand. But here's what Tucker said. He said, I'm doing this podcast on Rumble, and that he was in studio with Russell, so it wasn't um, but so here's Tucker Carlson giving an exclusive interview to Russell Brand, to a lot of people, who's just this wacko UK guy, right? He's some Brit, blah, blah, blah. Russell Brand wouldn't give him any credit. Well, it was a really good interview. And wait a minute, times they are changing. So Tucker says, in my Fox show, if I had 1 million or so viewers, and he said, and right now, Russell, you have over 6 million subscribers. So he's gotten more views, Tucker has, being on Russell Brand's podcast, which is on YouTube for free and on Rumble. But they had 5.2 million views. More, twice as much or 3 times as much as he would have had he been on Fox. I'm like, now that's cool. I'm sorry, that's cool. That's cool. I don't care who you are, that's cool. So you leave a major network and you go do a podcast with a Russell Brand and you get 6 million views within a couple of days. I mean, almost immediately they had over 3 million views. So it's like, so why did you stay with Fox? you know, if everybody had pitched in that watched that podcast, gave a quarter, gave 25 cents, it had paid for his salary. You know what I mean? So if we just give a quarter, if you've got a 100,000 subscribers and everybody donates 25 cents, that's going to pay a salary. You know, that's going to keep you from going to a major network. Um, yeah, Ed, if you're still here, I agree that Babylon's failing, man. They, after the real Pope died, and you haven't heard too much from the Vatican, but man, there's some mess going on in there within the church and stuff, and Babylon's in trouble, dude. And it's just like it says in Revelations. It's not necessarily really clear. People say, well, Babylon is this and that. No, the church is, and the seven mountains or whatever. That's the Vatican, dude. And the money that the Vatican controls and the people that the Vatican, through the different churches and if you don't think that cardinals and them folks don't have no power, forget about it. But so with the amount of stuff that's going on within the church itself and has been right for a while with this new mass and all blah blah blah. Oh my God, it's horrible. Um, and the fact that they want to excommunicate any Catholic who wants to use the old mass, the original mass before it was all changed, and they want to excommunicate all them people, and it's like, listen, the Lutherans or the Presbyterians will take you in, you know, they're not such bad people. I knew a deacon also, and I also knew a priest and his wife who in the Presbyterian church. Actually, Miss Sally, she's became a minister at the age of 70 something, and now she's 82. She's 12 years older than me, and she's 82 now, and is a full-fledged pastor in the local Presbyterian church. God bless you, Miss Sally. And so this idea though that you can't be involved or you can't make changes, at 70 she decided to be a minister. And sort of in the same way I have been inclined, which is I'm not a minister per se, but I'm here to minister to people and having conversations and being here in the middle of the night, whether we're smoking a bowl or not, you know. So in a way, I have picked up a ministry as well. And I don't think of it that way, but in a way, it's similar, and that we, Sally and I both had decided in our later years to be more spiritual and share it. That's what I mean. And she became a pastor, and I started a YouTube video channel. Cheers. They can sell weapons. They can. Chloe says that's wait. Maybe that's Barry. They have the companies at the ready to rebuild. Money, money, money. Right. I agree. Chloe says I started watching that, but only got 4 minutes in. I came on. I've been watching Russell Brand for a couple of years now. Yeah, I haven't been a fan, but people that kind of pushed him off. The main. major networks. Russell Brand. And I was like, wait a minute. So, the off chances that I've listened to him, I'm like, well, yeah, he's a radical and he's speaking his mind, but damn if I don't agree with 90% of what he's saying. Wait a minute. So then I started, not necessarily like Russell going to his channel or whatever. I didn't know he had a channel. But in some of these other things that pop up on the side, I'm like, well, let me go listen to this guy. Well, he's got gray hair. Well, he's pushing up in age. I'm 70, so everybody's younger than me, but they're starting to get old too. But the fact that he actually had decent questions and the he didn't hesitate, and he was writing when they panned the camera back and showed both of them. He's got this pad and he's writing notes. So he's writing things down. He's just not sitting there bullshitting with the guy. He was, but no, he was asking pointed questions. He was listening. He was writing down notes as the interview went along. And I found that, wow, he's really doing a good job here as as an interviewer. Russell Brand, who would have known that he would actually, make a very good, interviewer, and that he maybe his points of view, although radical as he might come across, and how he's out there and pushing his hands and his facial expressions and all, that's just his trademark. Much like Rush Limbaugh, in a way, or what's his name up in New York that still, that does all of the shock jock. I can't think of his name. Um, yeah, let's have a puffing contest. Yeah. uh, you know, Hawkeye Two Feathers and puffing stuff. What do you got for us today, Mr. Hawkeye? We got some puffing stuff. What are you going to do? We're going to puff and stuff. What? Yeah, we're just going to sit here. We're going to puff and stuff. Why not? It's 3 in the morning or 3:20, 3:30, something like that. Anyway, cheers. Oh, speaking of cheers, for those folks who might understand cheers, Dante, I want to say that I have not heard, and my internal intuition, whatever that is, I was like, I need to check for some reason, I need to check the channel. So I checked sort of his backup channel. And also I checked the regular channel, which is the Charistus group under K, and it's still up. So I know that we have not heard anything from the Dante group in several weeks now. But here's the thing, the last thing that was put up as like and there's only 2 things on the Charistus channel, should give, I looked at it and went, oh, the message is there are 2 videos up. And it's like, hi, how are you after all this time, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yep. So here's the thing, are they dead and gone? No, but they are at war. And with all the other chaos and stuff that they're going to send cluster bombs. No, I'm the Dante group and the Charistas groups over there. And no offense, but no, I don't want them to be dropping cluster bombs on my potential, what I would consider my allies in this war of evil and craziness. No, I don't. Whether I know any of them personally or not, that's not the point. I'm not against the Russians because the Ukraine was part of Russia a long time ago. And, so until the United States got involved and put this weirdo in there as the president, they need to get rid of that guy. Somebody needs to take a pop shot at him and just take him out, and maybe things would change, right? And they've tried. But the idea, though, that that there are good folks over there that are trying not to have this war. NATO's over there. There's so much more than it's just Russia invading the Ukraine. No, it's like if Texas were at war with Mexico, would the rest of the United States kick in? So Mexico wants Texas back. That wait a minute, well, Texas was part of Mexico before Texas was Texas. So does Mexico actually should they, if you went back in the older times, it was part of Spain, Texas, meaning before the Louisiana Purchase and all that kind of stuff. So, but here in this, Russia is thinking about the Ukraine back to the times of our civil war and our, where the United States was, murdering the Indians and taking over and, conquering what is now the United States. But they also went to war with Mexico because, remember the Alamo. And that was all part of Santa, them folks in Mexico. They were like, no, Texas doesn't belong to you. No, 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 no. This is Mexican land. It was part of Spain. It was, they had a legitimate claim. Okay, just saying. So, these folks over there in the Ukraine and Russia, some of them folks are thinking like that. All right. They're like, wait a minute, hang on. You know, we had some guy that come in here and they made him governor. I'm saying, governor of Texas, governor of Ukraine, dude. But anyway, so you're having this conversation in that it's like, wait a minute. But from their way of thinking, the history of Russia and the Ukraine is not simply what's going on now and what's being procured. Their history goes back thousands of years, where our history actually only goes back a couple of hundred. But imagine Mexico and Texas literally going to war. It's sort of like that, okay? So, would you want cluster bombs in Mexico or Texas if they were at war? Just saying. Would you want cluster bombs in Texas or Mexico if that were the case? There's a border war. Well, do you want to send in cluster bombs? Well, the Ukrainians and the Russians are at it. Do you want to send in cluster bombs? Okay. Let's put this in some kind of context. Well, the Russians and the Ukraine. What if Texas and Mexico were at war, which we sort of are because with all the border people and stuff coming in, there's a war going on our southern border, and not just with Texas. But Mexico still thinks it's part of the United States. If you think how far back it went, on Tuesday nights, on Milky Way, we talk about with, Robert V and myself, we talk about Indian things and stuff. And over the last year and a half, in discussing Native traditions and who was where and what, the Americans didn't come in to Texas until 1830s. Okay. 1930, 2030. It hasn't been 200 years. Texas was part of Mexico, okay, for thousands of years. All right. And so it hasn't been until the United States came in and, put itself that Texas is now part of the United States, right? But if you go back in history, Texas has been part of, and actually part of Spain, right? And the French, because the French came in, guess Louisiana Purchase was with the French, not the Spanish. So, you know, America wasn't America until we bought it and then wiped the Indians out. So if anybody was to have a claim, retribution or whatever, it would be Mexico and the southern, at least the southern states of the United States. which will like go all the way up into Oklahoma and Kansas, and draw a line up there, and the rest of it would be Mexico. They would be free states of Mexico, or whatever the provinces are. So, but if you want to say, okay, so we've got a border war. So, but the question, do we want to? So, yeah, there's shooting going on. There's even some grenades here and there, and bombings, and people getting killed, and DE agents, and just free people, and slavery on our border. Okay, but do we want to send cluster bombs to Texas? Do we want to send cluster bombs and give them to the Mexicans, to help with their issues, because they seem to, they're the underdog in this matter. But so we don't think of it in terms like that. But the Russians and the Ukrainians do. It's a long history. And, you know, do we really want to send cluster bombs into these neighborhoods? I mean, they're just people on either side. Cluster bombs, cluster bomb. Just, not just one bomb, but clusters of bombs. Just, you know, take a hit off of your pipe and go cluster bombs. Do I want to send cluster bombs on anybody? Anybody. I mean, cluster bombs. So smooth like a candy bar. It's Yohimbe, is what's Yohimbe. But again, the people I know are more knowledgeable about certain things and obtain a different knowing than others. Yep, they have eyes. Mexico is scary, crazy. Some of them. I miss Brian Barnett so much. He's the only reason I know of Hawkeye. Well, thank you. Brian's around us. Chloe, don't miss him. Just accept he's, because missing puts it in a different category in your brain. It uses different kind of brain cells. It missing someone and knowing that they're there with you. So when you miss someone, there's brain cells that are going neat, sort of like Pac-Man, neat, 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 neat. And the more that these little Pac-Man thingies go neat, 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 as you miss someone, change it, because missing someone is not a positive, even though it's a good friend, and everything, and you want it, and all of that is, but the missing of them is eating up positive energies. It absolutely is, especially after this much time. So, my dear, if you're still missing Brian that much, that it's the Pac-Man thing, you need to, because it's like, I miss the old bugger. I really wanted to go see him. And that time, my sister and I were, within my, well, he's my nephew too, but my nephew-in-law, my niece, they live right up there where Brian and his mom, where his mama still lives up there. And if my heart gets better and everything works out, I want to go back up there and stay with my niece and nephew. They're 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 cool folks, and they live right up there, in the mountains. I mean, they're like in Tennessee, but with just a few miles, and they're in North Carolina. And, when you go up the road that goes right by their house, it goes right up into the national forest. It's not a national forest road, but it ends up in the national forest. So, but I miss that, you know, but in my heart, and now that I have my heart condition, there have been times when, God Almighty, Brian, what must have been like when you hit the floor, when your heart gave out? Because now that I have my heart condition, which is actually sort of acting up right now as I'm speaking, I'm like, dude, what was that like? You know, what was your last moments when you just went, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because I'm in a situation now where it's like, so my heart is hurting right now. I'm having chest pains. And so what was it like for you when you had yours? Inspire me a little bit, you know. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I'm not worried about it happening. I'm just curious if I'm going to know if I'm having a heart attack. What's it feel like? I mean, it's like, wee, bunk. It was like last week. My blood pressure was 70 over 50. 70 over 50. And somebody said, you should call the hospital. And I said, why? And they, well, because, your blood pressure is so low. And I said, well, I'm still talking to you, you know. Yeah, but why? So why should I call the hospital? They should send an ambulance out. For what? Well, because you might be having a heart attack. And I said, okay. Well, as long as I can talk to you, and as long as my blood pressure hasn't dropped any lower than 70 over 50, which is like ludicrous, I think I'm okay. Eat some potato chips and eat some salt. So I was literally licking Himalayan salt out of the bag, and my blood pressure came back up. But what does it feel like to have a heart attack? I don't have a clue, you know, and I'm not necessarily like looking forward to it. But if something's going to take me out, it's going to be my ticker, and I'm not planning on it. I ain't pushing for it. But if something's going to take me out, it's going to be my heart. So curiosity is like, so what does that feel like? you know, um, I just, so to my chatting with Brian. So, dude, what was it like? You know, because it might be me. you know, I'm much older than he was, but you know, now that I know what my condition is and so forth, and I've got all these medicines sitting here on the table and all, which I need to take. But so what is it like? Well, how does it come down? Is there anything you can do in the meantime? Should I grab, if I feel a particular way, should I grab my nitro that I've got in one of these bags down here? It would take me a minute or two to find, but is this one of them issues where I should take some nitroglycerin? I'm sitting here with a 70 over 50 blood pressure. Yeehaw, having a good time. And does that mean I'm fixing to like keel over? Am I fixing? Is this a preview to a heart attack? Really? Um, okay, I'm going to sit here and watch and see what happens, because I don't know, you know, but I'm not scared. I'm curious as hell, you know, I'm not looking forward to it, but I'm curious as hell as to what a heart attack's going to look like for me. Am I going to clutch my heart and, or am I just going to go, "Woo, tunk." I don't know. It's curious. Just in case, take nitro. Yeah, I should check my blood pressure. I checked it just a little bit ago, and it was 130 over something. It wasn't bad, really. A little high for what it's been rolling for me because I'm normally like 120. I'll just say 130 or less. So, there have been times when I have been scared, Chloe. I mean, I'm clutching my heart and it hurts like a mother. And I'm like, son of a bitch, what do I do? But my pulse is good, my blood pressure is good, but I have this stabbing pain right here, which it's hurting right now. And I've been at the doctor and with the nurse listening to my heart, going, listen, it hurts right now. Am I having a heart attack? Well, no, your blood pressure and everything's good. We ran an EKG and I said, okay, so then why is my chest hurting? It hurts, but this is not a heart attack. Nope. Oh, okay. So the pain that I'm having in my chest is pleurisy. It's not a heart attack. Okay. It has to do with the pleural sac around the heart. And if it gets too much water or something, it will ache. And so I'm having a pleurisy attack with this chest pain, this right here under my thumb. But taking the nitro or whatever hasn't done a bit of good. I've done it, and I literally have been sitting in front of the well, she's a licensed nurse, you know, but for heart, she's licensed for that. And she's literally listening to my heart while I'm telling her, well, doc, it hurts right there. Well, but there's no symptoms. So it can't be a heart attack. Okay. So that's my point. Just because I have chest pains doesn't mean I'm having a heart attack because they've literally hooked me up to an EKG machine and nope, you're not having a heart attack. Well, then why does my chest hurt? Don't know, but it ain't your heart. Okay. So that's my point. Does my chest hurt worse than it does right now? Does that mean it's a heart attack? Or but so whatever the pain is that I'm having in my chest at the moment is not a heart attack. So what does a heart attack feel like? I don't know. But this ain't it, is my point. So would send everybody else to the hospital would be really just a lot of expense and wasted time, and even on the parts of the doctors and the folks who would uh, would be working on me. I'm thinking of the doctors and nurses that worked on me when I had my heart attack last year at this time, right? So no, this ain't a heart attack. No, I've had all my medicines. My And just for the hell of it, I'll check my BP right now. Yeah, water pills. I take those in the morning. But so the chest pains that I've had over the years has been relegated to pleurisy. And but to the point though, and like, when Brian conked out and his heart gave up, how did that work? And some people say, well, golly, Dave, you're being really gross about this. No, God damn it. I'm literally hooking up to my BP machine right now. So I got to be quiet. Hey, Scotty, how you doing? I was sleeping just fine until somebody woke me up at about 1 o'clock. I'm taking my BP right now just to see. It's 130 over 90. The 90 is a little high, but the 130 is good. And my pulse rate is 84, which is high for me. So I'll reset this thing and wait a minute or two, and then I'll do it again. So I always do 2 or 3 to see what the average is. But so not to be rude or crude, literally, with my heart condition, when I was in the hospital last year, the doctor was holding over me, and I was like, he goes, your heart's fluttering. And I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, you're in a mild arrhythmia. So my heart rate was, I don't know, like up in the 120s or 30s or something. So it was really ticking. and he could hear the flutter. And I said, so, I mean, he's literally like, this far from my face, listening with his stethoscope. And he looks up and he goes, "You're having a mild heart attack right now." And I said, "But I can't feel anything." And he looked up and he said, "That's why they call it the silent killer." And I was like, huh? I'm new to this, right? And so he's listening very intently. And I've got this pain in my chest, which is the same thing that I've got now. And he said, "No, that pain that you're having has nothing to do with what's going on in your heart, because my type of heart attack is that it starts going too fast and it can't keep up." And so, one of the things that I can check, if my pulse rate is low, I'm not having that kind of heart attack. If my pulse rate is 120 or something, I might be having a heart attack for my condition. So, I'm doing my blood pressure again. So, it was 74, I think I said. I smoked enough. I'm knockout suit. Yeah, me too. I'm just awake and chatting with y'all. And how you doing, Scotty boy? Ooh, 122 over 76. My pulse rate is still up. It's 74. That's interesting. I guess it's because I'm up and doing the video, and I'm a little bit more hyper. But usually my pulse rate's in low 60s or upper 50s. So something that I have discussed with the doctors and nurses over the years, just as a, but way back in the early 70s when the swamis were all about and we were all sitting cross-legged on the grass and doing guru stuff and om and and which there's still nothing wrong with that. But learning to keep your heart rate low. So right now my heart rate's up. So it's like, all right, that could be a part of the reason why my chest hurts, but I doubt it, because it never has before. But anyway, it's more muscular. It feels like. But anyway, but the heart is a muscle. But so in my question about this, so yeah, I smoked and all this for all those years, and yes, I'm still smoking, and I'd really like to have that last cigarette in that pack right there. But I have been able to keep it 10 cigarettes or less per day. So I'm at 2 packs. I'm 1 pack every 2 days, and I'm stretching it into the third day. So I've still got one cigarette left that's left over from a 2 day thingy. So I'm doing real well in that. Have I quit smoking cigarettes? No, but I'm way down. And I'm not been able to say, no, I'm going to put this down. Red Jesus Radio, smoke up. Yeah, I got one right here. I'll do it with you. Um, but to the point of my heart though, so has my control of my heart rate, which I've tried to keep down, benefited me in the long run for my heart. Now here's my theory on this. Let me take a hit but my theory about whether or not regulated breathing, which I've done for since the 70s, okay? And I'm 70, so just go back a few years. For the last 50 years, at least, I've been doing meditation type, breathing exercises type, stuff. So for the last 50 years, and my heart rate shows it, okay? Yum, yum. So, my personal thought about controlled breathing and keeping your heart rate down is this: the fewer times that muscle has to contract and expand to keep you breathing, the better off you are. I mean, so if my heart rate has been below 70, which it normally has, and the last year that I've been monitoring it, it's been below 70 most of the time, and sometimes even below 60. And I'm sitting here going, my heart's beating at 57 beats per minute. Really? It's it's kind of slow. And come on, are you still working in there? But here's the thing, though. So for the heart to have to one section of the heart sends um, blood out to the lungs, and the lungs, you take in oxygen, and then when that muscle contracts, it brings back the oxygen from the lungs and then pumps it into the other ventricle of the heart, which then pumps it south into the rest of your body. So the heart goes out to collect oxygen first. And then as the second time it beeps, it pushes it down the aorta and down below your chest into your where your stomach is, kind of thing, and down into the rest of your body. So for every time it beats up and then down, so it's like a two-stroke engine. It has to bring in air, then it goes into, and then it goes into its compression stroke. So it goes breathe, suck in the air, and then it fires and then comes back down. So, but in that, I did not really understand what the heart was doing. Well, it's pumping, but here's the thing. So the the veins in my heart have been constricted. So what looks like it's this big around, when you look at it from the side, it's been pushed in. So 30% on one and almost 40% on the other, which is almost halfway. So it's trying to push air in, out to the lungs and pick up oxygen, that's how the rest of the body breathes, and then it pushes it out. So if there's any clog or mess up anywhere along the line, it's going to affect it. But if your heart's beating at 80 beats per minute and mine's only beating at 60, well, that's 20 beats per minute more. Your heart has to work to keep you alive. What? Yes. So by keeping good circulation in your body, which I'm always, put your feet up and, you know, uh, I, I work my legs with my hands and always pull the blood towards your heart because the arteries push it south, but the veins will get clogged if things slow up. So you always have to massage your legs from your ankles to your heart, always from the bottom up, and keep that circulation going, right? But so if your heart's beating at 80 beats per minute, then that's normal for you, 75 to 80. And when I was growing up, 60 to 70 beats per minute was like normal. Now it's like 65 to 75. Yeah, so they've upped it. Well, but still, so for every beat of your heart that it doesn't have to work, but you still get circulation within your body. All right. You don't want to mess that up, right? So these folks who are running all the time to get their heart rates up and everything, you're overworking yourself. You're going to have a heart attack sooner than me. Well, I made it to almost 70 last year. You know, technically I was, but I was still 69 and three quarters when I had the heart attack, right? But the idea, though, that there are folks who are dropping out with heart attacks. Well, why are they dropping out? So my curiosity is like, okay, God, why am I still here? I have been in control of my heart rate for the last 50 years. So if you're out doing something heavy or whatever, and I can feel my ticker really want to pump out there, I'm like, no, take a deep breath and take a few seconds. If I'm walking, like when I was doing concrete work back in the day, and they'd fill up your a load of concrete in your wheelbarrow, and you had to push it, and your heart rate was up, and you're really, you're pushing a couple 100 pounds of cement in this bucket, in this thing up a ramp and down a 2x6, you know, um, and your heart rate gets up, and it's like, wait a minute, now I'm still walking and I'm still working, but my brain goes, slow down. So the next step I take is like, and I get into a rhythm. And I've been doing this for literally the last 50 years or longer, actually, but we'll just leave it at 50. And so that is my heart at 70 could be better, but there are folks who are in a lot worse shape than I am, and their heart rate is much higher than mine. So their heart's working harder nowadays. And I don't know if they've got this thing in their head. Are you in control of your breathing? If you can control your breathing, you can also control how fast your heart beat. No matter what you're doing, you can be running a marathon, but you can calm your heart. So, but what about those people whose heart rates are up into 100 or plus, 90 beats per minute? Well, that's 30 beats per minute faster than me. Mine's at 60. Okay, sometimes 65, but 90 to 60. Yours is working 30 beats more per minute than mine is. Is that good? Well, it keeps my heart rate and everything, keeps my blood flowing and all that. Yeah, but you're working the crap out of your heart. Both chambers going out to your lungs and coming back in and pushing out to your body and coming back up. So, but does that mean that you're healthier than I am? Or that's actually healthy for your heart to be working your muscles that fast? So my question and my thing to other folks is that maybe this faster heart rate all the time is not necessarily good for you. In the long run, you're going 20 to 30 beats per minute more per minute now. So over an hour, over a day, over a month, over a year, your heart has beat 20 times more than my heart has. As far as, or 25% more. And it's not about do I get enough exercise or whatever, because even if I'm out now, my heart rate will go up normally, right? But if it goes up above 80, for me, that's like holy cow. But there are folks who keep up at 80 and 90 all the time. And it's like, how is that normal? You know, it has become the new normal. So how are some folks having heart attacks at earlier ages? I know somebody that are in their 30s right now that like 35 or 6 who's got severe heart conditions worse than mine. Hey, Miss Sheila, how are you, sweetie? Hoping that you all are doing well. What time is it? Oh my God, I made it to 4 o'clock. Hell, I didn't even know. Sitting here yapping. And the subject has changed. But I told people at like 35 minutes into the video that, okay, if you've gotten this far, I'm pretty much, the subject can change from here on. So I warned people 35 minutes into this live stream. But I told them you can still listen. I'm not chasing you away, but the subject matter will change. And right now I'm just talking about my heart, but also not just my heart, but the fact that I've been consciously aware of controlling my breathing and my heart rate for at least the last 50 years. So, has that done me good or has it done me harm? Well, I'm 70 and and because of smoking and, and a lot of smoking, and I mean cigarettes too. I would smoke 3 packs a day, back in the day. Working on the carnival, we smoked all the time. And I worked on the carnival for years. Yeah, you got to outrun Big Red. I know what you mean. But so in the long run, though, does having a higher heart rate actually do you better? As some of these runners and athletes and folks that I know, well, you got to keep your heart rate up. Yeah, but not all the time. So, the swamis and the gurus who lived into their 70s and 80s, who sit in, who have that meditative look all the time. I understand it now because there are times when I'm like staring out the window and I'm sending prayers out to folks and kind of trying to tap into the universe. And, it's not like a deep meditation, but it is in and of itself. Um, because I can see how, especially with my old age, I can see how you can be in a meditative state for hours and still do things, you know. That's why I'm a little, well, what did you do today? Well, I'm not sure. But I did get, well, I don't know, but I didn't just sit right here, but I can't really tell you what I did. But I thought about people and I sent prayers out and I was sort of meditating on certain subjects. And, but what did you do today? Well, it was all kind of up here in the brain kind of thing, insane in the men brain. So, take another hit. It's Yohimbe for the day and contemplate, do we need cluster bombs at all? And why would we send them anywhere to kill people? Is beyond me. And my little correlation of the way that Russia looks at the Ukraine is like Mexico would look at Texas, because Texas used to be a part of Mexico. And in some ways, it still is. But um, so if there was a conflict between Mexico and Texas, would we send cluster bombs to Mexico or to Texas? Is my point. And so, why would we send cluster bombs to the Ukraine when Russia looks at the Ukraine like Texas looks at Mexico, kind of thing? But anyway, though we're just not at war with Mexico in that way, thank goodness. But there's still a war going on with the people crossing and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so it's been an hour and 43 minutes. I love you all. I do. Let's see, what time is it? I'm going to hang out for 4:20 and then I'm going to let you go. Because I got at least a couple more hits in this tiny little bowl here. But in thinking about how they're pushing these cluster bombs, to kind of sort of wrap up what I started 2 hours ago almost. Um, why would we have them in the first place if 100 countries have outlawed them? In good conscience, why would the United States have any of these to use or to give away to somebody else to use when they're outlawed by 100 other countries? Doesn't that say something? And so, from my point of view as an American, I'm upset and aggrieved and so forth that the President of the United States would even suggest that we use or give to anyone else to use bombs that are uh, disallowed in 100 other countries. How can the United States, in good conscience, even possess cluster bombs? If we had them, if we have them, we should dispose of them. We should not use them, give them to anyone else. Now, I pointed out just a little bit ago in my diatribe about this is that, if one of these cluster bombs don't work and a child or someone else gets harmed by it, if we give any of them to the other side for any reason, and a civilian gets harmed by just one of these, then Joe Biden should be charged for murder because he knowingly gave these bombs to use to harm other people. He knowingly gave these bombs to harm the Russians for whatever reason. But if one non, non uniformed or a soldier is harmed, then Joe Biden should be charged for murder. And anybody associated with who sent them, who partook in giving them, moved them, or whatever, they should be charged as well. Civilian, thank you very much, Michelle. How you doing? Sending you prayers always. So in this consternation and chaos going on in my head with watching other people interview, they're not discussing for example, they're not discussing why does the United States even have cluster bombs? But nobody asked that question. They're asking the second question, why should we send them? Or should we send them? And I want somebody to ask the question, why does the United States have them to give or sell or whatever if they're banned in 100 countries? Shouldn't we, as a conscious America, get rid of these on our own so they would not harm any civilian potentially? And the potential rate, as I discussed earlier, is about 10%. So if you drop 100 of these things, the rate of accuracy is that there's possibly 10 of these that ain't going to go off right. 10%. And that's an acceptable margin, okay? Because 90 of them worked, okay? Yeah, but what about the 10 that didn't? Well, but so they sent 100 down, and that's 10 of them that didn't work, potentially. So you send 1,000 of them down, and that's potentially 100 of them that didn't work. So you have scattered the landscape potentially with 100 bombs that didn't work correctly. That potentially to me is way out of line. Even if it was even 5%, and they don't have that accuracy. It is absolutely a clusterfuck using cluster bombs. But the harming of other people, one of the reasons why it's banned. But to me, also, the way the bombs work, that just sucks. I that ooh, that just seems inhumane. In it, well, but it's a bomb. I know, but these things drop down and then they boom and they do boom, 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 boom all over. And it's almost like using napalm. And I used napalm an hour and a half ago as my, go to in Vietnam. They don't use napalm, maybe in some small instances, but because it's so horrific and people getting burned alive and the destruction of the jungle. Well, that was the whole point, but we've learned a few things since then. So cluster bombs was kind of sort of developed with that napalm thought in mind from Vietnam. So the people who are making arms and munitions have this Vietnam kind of thinking. There are people in the jungle and we got to do it like this and cluster bombs work and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but that's not, so why times have changed. So I don't think, we might have a few napalm bombs laying around, but we don't do that sort of thing like we did in Vietnam. So maybe it's time for cluster bombs to just 100 nations have declared it illegal. So much like napalm, maybe it's a bad idea, even though it's against the enemy and the whole idea is to destroy the enemy. Yeah, but good God Almighty, the way that it works and the way that it doesn't work and the after effects, and maybe it's just maybe just shoot it out instead of using cluster bombs. So, and again, I would say, as an American, why do we have them anyway? And why? Well, the bottom line is, and since some of y'all just sort of came in after 2 hours, I'll go back over this just a little bit. Oh, it's 4:20. Oh, okay. Here we go. It's 4:20. Smoke what you got and share if you can. 4:20 in the morning a.m. 4:20. 3:21. Yeah, it's 4:21 here too. But anyway, so in thinking about the bombing and the killing, you know, and it's like, why is Joe Biden pushing the cluster bombs now? It's because they were made 20 years ago and they got outlawed. Okay. So now they've got all these bombs that were made sitting there. In order to store bombs, you have to have climate control because you don't want the things inside the bombs to deteriorate and make that 10% failure rate 15% or worse, like half of the bombs not working because they sat too long. So they have to be air conditioned and heated. They have to be maintained in whatever state they're in. That because they're bombs, then that means they have to be defended by somebody. Somebody's got to keep an eye on them, so somebody don't steal them or blow them up, right? So, so there's all this that has to happen just to have the cluster bombs, and that costs money. So what's happening is that they've made the bombs years ago, and they need to rotate the stock. Period. And it is about money, but it's about the money that it costs to maintain these bombs. Okay? It costs a buku bunch to maintain these bombs. So in the long run, people thought they were going to use them in some kind of warfare, and they didn't. So now the maintenance of these bombs is what's costing so much money. Why is Joe Biden pushing cluster bombs now? Because whoever has to maintain the damn things, it's costing too much, and they're past their expiration date, probably by 10 or 15 years. So they made these things 20 years ago, which would have, 2000s and 2005 and 10. So it's 2023. That's 13 years if they were made in 2010. So when did the countries start outlawing them? So you can back up the date and go, oh, so 20 years ago they were pretty much outlawed. And so, but they kept making them, or they made a bunch of them up to that point. So now what do we do with them bombs that are being stored that haven't been used? So we're pushing them on a country that says, here, we'll give you these. Well, why? Well, because we're tired of maintaining them. That's why. We don't care if they kill anybody or not. We just want to get rid of them. Okay. And we'd rather see you guys use them on the Ruskies because we hate the Ruskies. And so we're going to give them to you at a really good price because otherwise we're going to just blow them up in the desert, or they're going to blow up on their own because we've had them for the last 25 years or maybe possibly even longer. I think some of these cluster bombs would have gone back to the Vietnam era. So some of these bombs might be 30 or 40 years old, you see, and they really want to get rid of them. Hey, Lucky, how you doing? So but Biden's out there pushing them, and other folks are like that. They're not asking the question, why is he pushing them? you know, how come cluster bombs all of a sudden? Because they're outdated and they got to do something with the ones they got. That's why. Is it about money? Yes. Now, here's the thing though, they would give the bombs to the Ukraines simply to get rid of them. And why would they do that? Because it's going to save them money in the long run because now they don't have to store them and maintain them. Whatever, if they made 1,000 of these bombs that are sitting in a storehouse somewhere, them 1,000 bombs are now gone and they can shut that warehouse down. And it's not going to cost them anything anymore. Then whoever the employees that had to check in and go check it and maintain security and all that's gone now. So that's so if they get rid of 2,000 bombs, not individuals, but the bombs themselves, the cluster bunkers themselves, then they can take those out of the warehouses and that's going to save them money. It is about money. Did they make any money? No, but they didn't lose anything. And over the next 6 months, they're going to show a profit. Why? Because they got rid of the damn things and they don't have to maintain them anymore. And they don't have to worry about them blowing up in our own backyard. Why? So Joe's out there selling these things to get rid of them, whether any money is exchanged or not. There's probably a government tax break in the deal somewhere, So whoever made them, whoever stored them, is going to get something out of the deal, whether it's a tax break or the fact that they don't have to maintain them anymore. And that is costly, especially on bombs. So what, but why is old Joe out there? Because somebody said, now the Democrats are supposed to be the ones who are for, wait a minute, I grew up as a Democrat and it was against the war in Vietnam. I was against the war in Vietnam. I know friends and neighbors and people who came back maimed mentally and physically and, from the Vietnam War. And, no, now you want to wait a minute, but it's the Ukraine and we're not there. And it's not a jungle. It's a city and neighborhoods and farms and stuff. It's not like Vietnam, but it's still, they're shooting at each other, right? From the hedgerows and into buildings. It'd be like, the Tet Offensive in Vietnam, in Saigon. So civilians there, but there's shooting going on. There's bombs going off. There's rockets going off. We want to send cluster bombs. Wait a minute. Where is the compassion of the United States on the killing of people for any reason? But cluster bombs? Come on. We can do better than that. How you doing, Mr. Lucky? Yeah, so we know these things, and this and that, but there are folks that need to back up the questioning. Oh, should we give them to the Ukraine? Wait, why do we have them? Somebody needs to ask the question over and over again. Wait a minute. Hey, old Joe, why do we have cluster bombs? If they're outlawed, why do we have them? Joe, why do we have cluster bombs? Anybody in the know, anybody that's up there, folks need to ask the simple question: why do we have them in the first place? For any reason. And why now would we get rid of them? Because it's all, they got to change stock. That's the reason. I know I'm repeating myself, and it's been 2 hours since I started this conversation. I figured it'd last 30 minutes, and it did. And I told people at 35 minutes in, I've said pretty much what, but for those folks of you that came in late or early, hey, Lucky, there is no profit in compassion. Absolutely not. But it's storage fees right now for the cluster bombs they made all them years ago. And as I've been having this conversation openly with my brain here this morning, it's like I think cluster bombs go back to the Vietnam War. They were developed to, drop a bunch of them over an area and get as many as possible. So in theory, I guess if you want to kill a bunch of people, that's, but we're supposed to be better than that now. I'm seriously. Can we just wound them? Do we have to maim them? I mean, I don't know. It just, they're in my 70 years, although I have not seen it personally, I have seen the results of war on my family members and, close friends and so forth who have been at war. And that's enough, you know, uh, because of my leg and conditions, I wasn't able to go to war. And I'm glad I didn't try to volunteer. That would have ended up badly for me because of my own physical condition at the time, because of my leg. Yohimbe. It's a nice evening smoke. So, but anyway, for Uncle Joe, who's moving really kind of slow, the world is watching him, you know, hug the king of the, wait a minute, and like they're old pals or something. Maybe they are. But hang on, and wandering around there, at Buckingham Palace or whatever they were, just, you know, and they're probably doing now. So, what's Uncle Joe selling? And who's talking in his ear? And is he double talking? Which, if you listen to Uncle Joe, he's doing a lot of double talking. Now I'm 70 and a little stoned and some scattered brained, but I can have a conversation, and Uncle Joe can't. I don't know what this guy would be babbling about. And I'm hoping that the king and these folks who are listening to Uncle Joe babble will understand that he's babbling, you know, and that hopefully at the next election, I think that watch. Let me back this bus up just a little bit. And this has to do with Uncle Joe and the presidency. All right. The world is watching Uncle Joe. All right. And they're going, a couple of years, they're going to get somebody else. We just have to tolerate this bumbling fool for a couple of years because hoping to Jesus, either he has a stroke, or they're going to elect somebody else in a couple of years. We got to put up with this guy because however he got elected, the world's looking at it going, holy Jesus. It's Joe Biden, holy Jesus. And what about Joe Biden? Holy Jesus. But Joe Biden in his policy, holy Jesus, we only got so much more time. But and Biden in his policies, holy Jesus, you know. So there's Trump went around and talked to folks. He shook their hands, they had conversations. He could walk in a straight line and knew where he was going. Um, so, but I mean, from a point of view of, how does the president look to the world? Well, Joe is a bumbling fool, and the world knows he's a bum. Oh, well, he got caught in another guffaw. No, he's a bumbling idiot, y'all. And how he's doing as well as he is from my standpoint, he's doing really well. He's probably working at about a 60%. And they push him out there and he wanders around and shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And I'm like, holy Jesus, there he goes again. They're sending him, they're sending him outside with all these people and you get with the king. Holy Jesus. There are people on the sidelines going, Mother Mary, Jesus. They're doing the sign of the cross, just hoping old Joe makes it off the field. you know, I mean, come on. It's like, holy Joe, oh, Joe, just make it back. Come on, Joe. We got a treat for you. Joe, if you come over here, we got a little girl, you can snip her hair. Joe, come on, you come back this way. And he's out there going, huh? Shaking hands with the air, you know. And so you, Joe, we got a child over here for you. Got some candy. You, ooh, I smell a child's hair. And off old Joe goes. But if there ain't none of that, he's going to wander around forever. I know that's pathetic. But, why they have children around him ever? You got to ask that question. And nobody asks it. Oh, there goes Joe sniffing some child's hair again. Well, who put the child there? Who allowed the child to get near? If there's a lineup of people, why isn't that child between two other adults? Why is Joe close enough that he can go sniff their hair in the first place? Back this bus up. People ain't pay attention. Somebody is providing old Joe with children, at least to sniff their hair. No, no, they're not. No, they're not. Yeah, well, how come these children end up at the end of the line where Joe can get to them? Somebody is supporting his habit. I'm sorry. Yeah, but look at this, and Joe will make. Why is the child there in the first place? Oh, she's with the president, but blah 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 blah. This child should be on the other end of the line. Joe should not be able to get to her, but he does. And there's too much close proximity. And whoever, as a director of theater of a bunch of damn years, what, 30 years? Whoever's arranging the people can go, no, no, don't put that child over there, put her over here. They're directing this thing. So whoever the director is of setting these people up for these shots with old Joe to be able to sneak in and sniff, they're at fault because they allow Joe to have access to that child or that person, or sometimes it's just a woman. But for that, put a man over there. No, there's two women over there, and there's always a setup, and people aren't really paying attention to that. They see that old Joe is sniffing, but I say back it up. Who provided Joe with the sniff? Who is the prostitute that set it up? Well, I got this girl and she wants to see the president and all this. Yeah, but then put her over here. They shake hands and then Joe goes over here and she goes over here, you know. Yes, whoever's watching and setting it up, They're allowing Joe to sniff. I'm sorry. It's like hanging panties on the line and going, Joe, there's some panties hanging over here on the line. Come on. That's horrible. And so when I see certain things, it it upsets me on a different level because I know that there are people that are allowing Joe to do this. Okay. And the child trafficking and the level of it. And this goes back a long way, especially with old Joe and as a senator and all this. And um, the people who set up the interviews are the ones that go, no, stand over here and stand over here and do like this. Okay. That person who does that is at fault. Okay. The people out front that aren't on camera that are directing who stands where is at fault for Joe's sniffing, him getting away with it. You know, is it bad that it happens? Absolutely. But what's even worse is there are people who could keep it from ever happening. Except Joe wanders off and just goes off a sniffing, then you need to put a leash on that bitch. But what you need is to put him in an institution and not allow him anywhere near children for any reason whatsoever. He's a politician. That's even worse. Keep him away from children. But we allow the president of the United States, now we allow him, but you see, there are people that allow him to do it. Ah, the people out front who go, put them two girls on that side. And Joe can come in and he can wave at them. And there's a way to separate. And the people who are standing behind the camera and are going pointing it, they're at fault. Just remember that. It's not just Joe who's doing the sniffing. It's the people who put the children in the position for him to sniff. Now there's this 10% where they've got a bunch and he goes off on his own and leans in and goes to sniffing. That's kind of hard to avoid. But when there's a lineup and they put a child on the end where Joe can get to him, setup. That's an absolute positive setup. And the people behind the camera know it. So, but anyway, I've been at this for 2 hours and 13 minutes. And I love you all. I hope you all have a good morning. And for those of you who came in early and stayed, I love you. And for those of you who came in late or early and stayed, I love you too. Thank you all for considering. And just think about what I said. Just consider not just are we sending them, but why and who's got them. And wait a minute, we got cluster bombs. Wait a minute, aren't they against the moral law? Wait a minute, why hasn't the United States destroyed these things? Why do we have them at all? And wait a minute, who paid for these things? And we're going to send them? Is this for free? How much is this going to cost the American taxpayer? Because these cluster bombs, if we got them, we paid for them. That means part of my money and tax money went into paying for a cluster bomb. Do I want to send it to the Ukraine? No. Do I want it to kill somebody? No. Do I want the potential for a civilian to get killed? No. Wait a minute. Well, am I going to get a refund if you guys send? Yeah, do we get money back for this? Am I going to get a refund because my tax money helped buy these cluster bombs? Oh, what's the deal with this cluster bomb? Why do we have it in the first place? How much is it going to cost us to send them somewhere else to be used to destroy people and property? And God knows what else. Maim, hurt, kill. What if it doesn't kill somebody? It just blows their arm off. So they have to live the rest of their life with their arm blown off. So Do you, as an American taxpayer who helped pay for these cluster bombs, not that we okayed it, but our government did, and that's why they're in storage and they want to get rid of them. So these cluster bombs are yours and mine, and I say no. They want to drop them on somebody, drop them on the people who agreed to make the things and sell the things and want to send them off to kill other people. Hang on, go stand in the field there, Joe. Let's see if these things work. you know, boom, and drop one on you and a couple of you other stupid motherfuckers that want to send these things anywhere, anywhere, for any reason. And you and I, as an American taxpayer, ought to be able to say, no, I don't agree with this. No, it was my tax money that helped support. Somebody bought these things, and if the United States government bought them, then our tax money bought these cluster bombs. And I say, no, no, destroy them. It was some of my money that was involved in this. No, take them out in the desert somewhere and blow them up. No, say no, tell people no. I don't want these cluster bombs. I think they should be destroyed. Whether they, agree or not, it's not about political, it's about morality. Should we have them in the first place? No. Then blow them up. Don't send them anywhere. Don't, it's a tax write-off. No. But don't send him anywhere. I do not want to be involved as an American. If these get sent somewhere and someone gets killed, then I'm apt for murder because I didn't. Now I'm speaking up. So, does that make me culpable? I don't know. But the idea is, if we just say no and speak up, it isn't about politics. It's about morality. And it's about whether or not, as an American, we think this is the correct thing to do, to send these bombs anywhere for any reason. So, but anyway, that's my 10 cents worth for 2 hours and 17 minutes. I love you all. And as always, I always end with a prayer. And I do mean it, because there's many days where I'm just kind of wandering around in my head, but I'm wandering around with people and thoughts and stuff, and like this thing with the cluster bombs, like, give it just a little. It's not just about the bombs or that we're sending them, but the morality of it all, and why do we have them, and why doesn't somebody say something about that or ask that question? So y'all spread that question around. Why do we have these things in the first place? Yep. Why do we have them in the first place? Hey, old Joe, come back over here. You're supposed to be a Catholic, and you're advocating sending, you as a Catholic now are advocating sending these things over to kill them nasty, nasty Ruskies. And morally, that's why some of them priests won't give him communion, because he's, for abortion, he's for killing, he's for the war, he's for, sending cluster bombs off. As a priest, and if I saw old Joe at the communion rail, I'd pass him by and let him bitch about it. No, I'm sorry, Jesus died on the cross, and you want to send cluster bombs to Russia, and you want me to bless you with the Eucharist? I don't think so. Pass you by. Jesus wasn't about that, dude, and you're advocating murder in a mass way by advocating the use of these bombs, and you're a Catholic? I'm sorry, Mr. President, but you're not, and I was an altar boy, and I held the little plate underneath, so I was there at the communion rail for a bunch of times growing up, for like 6 years, for sometimes I would, serve 2 or 3 masses on a Sunday as an altar boy, and sometimes as a deacon as well. But so wait a minute, hang on, back up this bus. The Eucharist is you're supposed to confess your sins. And I think that sending bombs to another country that will potentially kill hundreds or thousands or even one, um, and just, I'm advocating murder on a large scale for whatever reason. But I think I should deserve communion. I should deserve the Eucharist, which is the highest form of communion with Jesus. Wait a minute, I don't think so. I'm sorry, as a person and as a priest, I can't give you this little piece of bread. It would be against my religion, literally, to do that as a priest. So, and I had considered becoming a priest. So, I sometimes when I fluff off in my meditation, I go into if I were a priest, an honest to good minister to people directly, like a priest would I, could I, give communion to certain people if I knew that, they hadn't really confessed their sins? If I know that in the confessional that Sally has come in and she's got a very distinct Southern voice. So in the confessional, I'm listening to her sins, and she's having an affair with Joe Schmo. Um, and God forgive me, say two Hail Marys and a Glory Be, and, change your ways. Okay, Father, and she's absolved. So, but she comes up to the altar rail there to get communion. But she's sitting with old Joe back there, and they're having an affair. So that wait a minute. So the priest has, internal information that he can't share. So, but she comes up and wants to have communion. Should the priest give it to her? Because she's still sinning. And he knows it. Or does because if he lets out, wait a minute, sister, I can't give you this because you're still having an affair. Whoa, wait a minute. Or does he just pass her by and she'd look around going, wait a minute, what just happened? Well, no, she could go ask the priest later on and say, why didn't you give me communion? And he could say privately, sister, you're still having an affair. You're sitting with him in the church. Well, yeah, but we weren't like getting it on, Father. No, but you're still seeing him. You're still having an affair. Well, but Father, so some of these moral issues, I have just looked at these things as like, so, and what is the reason I'm saying that is like, so the inside information is that we know old Joe likes to sniff hair. So the other information is whoever is putting people on the dais, the lineup on the stage for the photographic sessions. Why would there be a child anywhere near arm's length of Sniffin' Joe? It's because they allow it. That's all. So if you as a person who is watching something, so now that I have given you this inside information that there are people who are supplying him with hair to sniff so that they can keep him satisfied, you'd go, wait a minute, that's insanity. But you can go back and look at some of the setups that they've had, and they've absolutely set him up so that he could sniff hair. They could have put somebody in between. There were other people there. They could have put the children in front so he couldn't go. But he's gone after them now. So that means that they need to have somebody with one of them claw hooks that grabs him around the neck when he goes to really go sniffing. He's going down the line looking for a hair to sniff. You got to pull old Joe back. You got to grab that hook and yank him back. I don't care if you have to put a fucking leash on him. You got to do something because that's, morally, I mean, from a person, from the child's person who's had their hair sniffed by the president, who now has been on camera. There are pictures of this going around the internet of this girl, whoever she is now, of this girl who's scrunching away from old Joe, who's snipping of her hair. Now, think about the child. What about the child who has had to get away from the president of the United fucking States, sniffing her hair? And now there are pictures. She's on the internet. She's been on the news, so she was up front and everything. And then there's old Joe. So her memory of meeting the president is of her having to try to get away from this old creep. Anybody said anything about the children who have been affected by this? Their picture taken, video of them, and they got to live with this the rest of their life? Oh, so you were that child that old Joe snipped your hair. So it's been 5 years. What do you think about that? Are you still creeped out every time you see his picture on the TV? Do you have dreams of this old creep coming to you? Are you worried that the Secret Service is going to come get you because he really liked you? Are you going to disappear in the middle of the night? Are they going to snatch you from school because old Joe liked to snip your hair? Has anybody followed up on that? Have any of these children actually disappeared after old Joe sniffs them? I mean, seriously, do we know? Because stranger things have happened and they're just children. But whose child was it? How did she get up there? Where was she from? How old is she now? Think about it. Well, where did she go? Did they put that child up there for her hair to be sniffed? Is she part of the trafficking? Seriously. So they put her up there on stage for old Joe to sniff. But where'd she come from? Well, whose child was it? Would you allow your child to be up there? No. So what if this child is one of them children? They bring him out, old Joe sniffs her, and that child disappears. That child is offered up, if you will. Old Joe sniffed her. It must have been good. So then there are people who are watching the interview going, I'll pay 10,000. And somebody goes, no, 12. She's a real cutie. 15. There's another offer. And they're betting online for the child who Uncle Joe just snipped her hair. Do we know where those children went? We don't. Not offhand. Who knows where those children went? And I, as a journalist or a reporter or whatever, would like to have some of those questions. Who is that girl right over there? What's her name? Where does she go to school? And what's her parents' name? And write it down. Oh, what? She's an orphan? Where'd you get her from? Well, she's been, wait a minute. And then you start finding out that some of these children that are on the dais with the prez or whoever, because there are other pedos in the group. But so they put them up there so that other folks can view them. We don't know where these children go. So they put them up there and somebody says, ooh, the one on the left, I'm that one there is worth 10,000. I'll give 10,000 for that one. Send her to my cabin, blah, 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 the deal. And so they, these children, after they've been sniffed, after they have, been paraded around, who knows where the children go? Did they actually get anywhere and do they grow up? Or are they absolutely part of the system? And the scary part is some of these children are absolutely being paraded in front of the whole world to see. And there are millionaire, billionaire people who are bidding on these children because they're being presented to us. And you say, ooh, I want that third one and in from the left. Ooh, the one with the red hair. Yeah, I really like her. Want that one and that one and that one. And they go off stage, and all of a sudden, where do the children go? It's part of the trafficking. And old Joe gets to sniff them. And what's to say old Joe don't get them children himself? I mean, some of them children, when you see them, shy away from old Joe, there's terror in their eyes. And I, as somebody who have been abused and essentially raped, I know what that looks like. I know what it feels like. And you go, but nobody asks or follows up, where do those children go after the interviews and after they've been up there? Why are they there in the first place? Let's back that up. Why are there children in these setups for old Joe? What is there a school being honored, or is one of them the student of the year, or why does old Joe have any of these young adults um, to be? Why are they in this parade of stuff? I don't know. It's because they know old Joe likes to sniff. That's the basic reason. If I, as a producer, I would go, no, we ain't letting nobody near old Joe. You keep them children's over here. And Joe, we got a leash for you. Nope, you ain't. Nope, sorry, he ain't doing it. I don't care if you are the president of the United States. You ain't sniffing, and I'm not going to allow it. And as somebody, a director who has set up many things like that over my many years, at least 30 years, no, we're not letting Joe near him. And there were people that I knew um, who had been, so there were people within the theater group who had complained of certain men who like to pinch and prod and bump and feel. And we kept, you know, there were those of us who knew, and we kept him away. And we told him, no, that's bad behavior. It didn't mean it kept him from wanting to feel up somebody's bum, but we kept him away at, as much as we could from those types of situations. Now, if there was a lineup or something and there were girls and men and intermixed, he was on the end somewhere. There was at least one man between him and a girl. And so he would have to really reach around to pinch him, which he tried. And we caught him at it, and other people did too, and we chastised him. But as an organization, we couldn't keep him out simply because he liked to pinch girls' bums. But we didn't, if he wanted to volunteer for something, we okay. But as a group, we couldn't chastise. We still took his money and his help, but as far as hey, you stay over there. No, you come over here. We separated them as a community theater. But you had to be aware of it. So, but then there were times that people just didn't give a shit, or then there were people. Then there were some directors who like to pinch themselves, male or female, mostly male, but feeling of somebody's bum is like, yeah, let me give you a little pinch here. No, that's not acceptable. And the one thing that I can claim, honestly, is that there's nobody, all of the years I've been in the theater with all the children and all of the females and males too, but um, no one has ever complained because I was not a gentleman. If anything, they have given me kudos for being a gentleman as a director, and that I never made any of them feel uncomfortable in any way, in leering, staring, changing costumes or whatever. So, and I pride myself in that, in being a gentleman, not just to women, but to kids and everything. You don't want to look around and see if little Sally's changing her dress. No, That's just not right. Sometimes you walk in and somebody's changing, and that's different. You can put your eyes in any other direction but stare at whoever's changing clothes. And or there were some men who made it a point to sneak into the dressing room. Oh, excuse me. And he'd be looking around and seeing who was dressing. That was not me. And if I came in, I'd open the door, for example, and go, "Hey, that's your director. Are you? Is it safe?" And they'd go, "Give us a minute." And I go, "Okay," close the door. And somebody would open and say, "Okay, you can come in." And I'd come in. There might be somebody half dressed or something, but they were comfortable. And so I'd just have to say, whatever, we got 5 minutes, we'll get everybody ready, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you got your this, you this, okay. All right, I love you all, break a leg and then back out. Many times happen to do that with people partially dressed or whatever. But my point is, though, that I never made anybody feel uncomfortable. And then there are people who are just, old Joe would make me feel uncomfortable just being in a room with the dude because we know the types of behavior that he is. So, having been around people in the community over the years with bad behavior, I understand old Joe in that context. Okay. I don't approve of his behavior or anything, but I understand, old Joe's got this habit. So, but as people who observe that type of behavior, they're guilty of allowing it. And it shames me on a bunch of levels. It's like, how can people knowingly allow this? Why is that child up there? And why is it anywhere near Uncle Joe? I know I'm repeating myself, but it really bugs me. Where is the morality of the people who allow it to happen on any way, shape, or scale? The same thing it's not just the hair sniffing, but it's the idea that here's supposed to be a devout Catholic man, a Democrat, who is knowingly and willingly wanting to send cluster bombs to murder a bunch of people. I'm sorry, that you would condone it on any level, shape, or form. It's one thing, a rocket from a thing, there's a machine gun nest and you want to blow it up. Okay. You send in a rocket, you send in a drone, you send in a something. Okay. But you're going to send in these things that float on parachutes that come down and then cluster fuck bomb an area of you don't know who's there, what's there, or whatever, or whether they're all going to go off or etc. Don't want to be a part of it. So I'm hoping that Americans will wake up to that fact. It has nothing to do with sending them. It does. But why do we have them? How come we have them? And why haven't we destroyed them? Because if they're immoral, which they are, then why do we still have them? Money. So I love you all. I continue to pray each and every day. I do. That each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings that are out there in the universe. And if anything, the blessings can be, hey, Steve, how are you? Oh, my goodness, you're up really early. It's 5 in the morning. I was thinking about you this afternoon, and then a storm came in, and then I've just, for whatever reason, my brain and my body have been putting me out and knocking me out and putting me to sleep. And at times when I don't really want to go to sleep. But there are, I guess the creator's knocking me out because I woke up with this cluster bomb thing on my brain going, what the hell? And at 2 o'clock this morning, I'm doing a live stream. You haven't been to bed yet? Yeah, I slept until like 1 o'clock, and then my cell phone went just it got bombed with a friend of mine calling, and I thought it was an emergency, and it really wasn't. But I'll leave it at that. It's been raining there. Oh, hey, Witch Moon. Well, maybe, staying on for a little longer, I get to say hi to y'all personally. That's cool. Well, then, I said part of my prayer, so I got two more to go. And I'm going to light this cigarette that I've been sitting here for the last 2 hours and 40 minutes. I've been wanting to smoke. And I thought I just had one left in the box, and there was actually two. So the last 2 days, I've been doing really well with not smoking cigarettes. Cheers on that one. I don't smoke a lot, and I know I shouldn't smoke at all. But all things considered in the world, it's like, all right, well, that all things considered, well, having a couple of cigarettes a day don't really bother me. Well, it does bother me in the long run. Oh, Witch Moon, let me kind of sort of bring you up to date with something. I got a bobbing appointment, a bobbing appointment later on today, this afternoon. I get to go jump in the therapy pool if I could make it on time. Um, it was interesting. The phone call that I got at 1 o'clock this morning was someone begging me to allow them to come pick me up tomorrow. And I was like, what? I was trying to give you all a break. No, I want to come pick you up tomorrow. Well, but I'd really like to see if I can get there in my truck. No, I want to pick you up tomorrow. Yeah, but I need to be there and I don't want to be late. And if something happens with you, I don't want to wait till the last minute to see if my truck's going to run. I want to go ahead and be there early, right? At least 5 or 10 minutes early and see if my truck's going to, you know, but it's all about my truck runs great. It's the clutch. And it's been working fine. But okay, maybe by letting it sit, it worked itself out, which is possible. It could have got air in the line before and it wouldn't clutch right. And because I've let the truck sit for so long because of my operation, now the clutch is working. Okay, you know, I'll take that blessing if that's the way it is. I have brand new parts sitting right over here that came in that I ordered online and I save 15%. You know, don't go in the store. I hate to say it, but don't go in the store if you can buy auto parts for 15 or 20% off because, like Advance Auto, they're always doing these specials. So sign up and you need a part. Well, it costs this much. Yeah, but if you can get 15% off by ordering it online, you can still pick it up at the store. But you get 15% off instead of going to the counter and buying the part. They'll box it for you and you go in, all you got to do is pick it up. So, and 15% off. Now you say, well, that's not, back in the day, 15% was a big deal. 15% off is what the mechanics got. Okay. If you were a mechanic and did a lot of business with an auto place, you got an automatic 15% or 20% discount because you did a volume of work with them. So if you sign up on the like Advance Auto, like I have an account, you get 15% off and here's another deal and blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, you save 20 bucks. Well, I'm sorry, but between the two parts that I bought, I saved almost $40. That was almost the price of one of the pieces that I bought. So anyway, that's my suggestion. This online stuff, sometimes I piss and moan about it. But if I could go to town and pick up the part, well, they delivered it up here, so I didn't have to drive. Um, but you can still pick it up at the store. So, but you still get this discount. And I don't think people understand that. Go ahead and you can still go to the same place, but you're going to get a discount. You know, I begged for a 15% discount back in the day, and now they're just giving it away if you do it online. Wow, what a deal. So, anyway, I smoke so much I have to relight the cigarette. I forget how to puff. But anyway, yeah, Steve, you getting here just now, and you too, Witch Moon. I'm going to give a really quick thing about the cluster bombs. I want to ask the question, and I present it to you all too. After repeating, I'll repeat myself a little bit. But the cluster bombs to me is that nobody's asked the question yet. With all of the folks that I've been watching, about the cluster bombs and should we send them? My question is, if they're banned in 100 countries through the UN or whatever, then why does the United States even possess the things? Why do we have them at all? And the bottom line is they were made back at the end of Vietnam War. And this cluster thing is sort of like napalm. They like to wipe out a bunch of people really quick. And so cluster bombs was one of them things, but in all things mechanical, especially munitions, there are huge bombs that didn't go off in World War II that were lodged in buildings and stuff that are landmines that are still in Vietnam. I mean, they're just, and maybe even in Europe, there's probably landmines stuck somewhere. And there are still people that are going out there and checking to make sure that somebody doesn't inadvertently step on one of these things. So it's all about killing and maiming and stopping and all that, and it's warfare. Okay. I question whether or not landmines were really effective. I mean, in the long run, were they really effective in the fact that they were left over after the war, is what I mean. So, in the long run, were they really effective? No, because y'all didn't go back in and clean them up. You just put them out, laid them out, and then people step on them. 10 years later, you go, wow, there's a field, and you walk across it, and boom, you know, ain't your fault. Lost a leg, almost killed me, Um, well, but nobody else thinks about, the leftovers of the after effects. So, but with the cluster bombs, it's why do we have them at all? And so I want someone out there in the media to ask the question, why does the United States even own these things? If they're banned, why do you own them? Why do you have them? Why do you want to give them away? And the reason they want to get rid of them is because they have been stored for 15, 20, maybe even 30, 40 years. And it costs a lot of money to store these bombs. They have to keep them, the air just right. There's somebody that's got to maintain them. It costs money to just store these bombs, and they need to rotate the stock. They need to get rid of stock, and that's why old Joe's trying to sell them. That whether he gives them away or not, it doesn't matter. They got to rotate the stock, and that's why it's coming out now. There's a good excuse, maybe kill a few Ruskies, but we get to rotate stock. And in the bottom line, it's all about money. So we should speak up and say, no, 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 because our tax money paid for them bombs. You and me own them bombs. And I say, no, I don't want any portion of the bomb that I paid for with my tax money. I say, no, don't send them. I don't want I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and think that somehow my tax money went to a cluster bomb to kill people in another country, to kill anybody, but and I'm not a Catholic anymore. I'm just trying to be a spiritual person in the world. Well, Uncle Joe's supposed to be a devout Catholic. It's against his religion to do this shit. And he's out there parading around, you know. I think they ought to excommunicate him. I think he should not be allowed to be a Catholic because of what he's doing, what he believes, and his warmongering. You know, that's another story, but you know. But anyway, so I don't want to be a part of it either. I know. You know, well, thank you both, Hawkeye and Witch Moon. And so, but just watch the news and just watch other folks's. And, you know, I'm going to put a plug in here at the end of my show for Russell Brand. And we talked about this earlier. And Russell Brand did an exclusive interview with, guess who? Tucker Carlson. And it was great. And the idea that this supposedly bumbling fool of a, you know, some of the, you know, higher muckety mucks don't pay attention to Russell Brand. He's got 6.5 million subscribers to his channel. And so by the time they had finished up his interview, there were more people who watched the interview live on Rumble and then who later watched parts of it like on YouTube, like I did, had over 2.5 million views, which is more views than he would have had if he had been on Fox. So that and that's what Tucker talked about. He said, you know, we've already got more people here on your show than he had on Fox. So, but anyway, I'm giving a plug to Russell because his interview with Tucker Carlson I thought was extremely good. I really do. And it was in a room. It wasn't some kind of Skype thing or something. Tucker was actually there at Russell's place, and they sat at a table and had conversation. And Russell was he was polite and he asked questions, sometimes 2 or 3 questions in a row, how his brain works. But Tucker picked it up. They were as Russell said, he said, you know, Tucker was a really nice guy and we have a, you know, good rapport and everything. And it showed up in the interview. And so for Tucker to leave, you know, a high profile job to go and then be at Russell's place and do a one-on-one interview, I thought was great. I really do. You fell asleep and deleted your rain comment. Yeah, sleepiness will make you do strange things and hit buttons where you shouldn't. But anyway, so my hat's off to Russell Brand, and I gave him a like and subscribe to his YouTube channel. I'll have to check him out on Rumble. But I was very impressed by both of them and how they got along together. That was one thing. But by the questions asked, and by the way, Tucker actually, you know, he wasn't under any kind of duress or stress or, you know, can I answer this question because I'm a moderator on Fox TV? Or he was having conversation with a gentleman who was seriously asking good questions. Good night, Michelle. Sleep well. I'm fixing to get out too. But anyway, so if you can catch it, look for it. I thought it was a good interview. And some folks are, you know, they don't like Russell Brand. They don't like his style. Well, his style is a little strange and it's not that calm, you know, kind of sort of thing. But, you know, Tucker got along with him in the thing. He was a lot calmer than some of his YouTube videos where he's really kind of in your face that this was this. And, a null. Remember, that's the you know, the null zone is the empty set, you know. But the empty set's like zero. Zero has no value, but without zero, there wouldn't be a one or a negative one. So zero is the null set. It's there, it has a value, but there's nothing in it. So we're all a bunch of zeros. But I really have, upped my game for, thank you, Russell, for being that crazy spokesman out there and sitting around and these crazy ideas that you have, and these gestures that they're, you're not just sitting still with your hands folded and answering. You're out there. And I couldn't think of it. I still can't think of his name. What's the guy up around New York that does the radio shock jock that's been on for so many years? I can see his face and the glasses and the long hair and the da da da. What's his name? Slipped as I drifted. And I was like, no. I just gave you sound effects, Michelle. But so anyway, um, as observers here in this chaos, I was going to do a video earlier and I fell asleep and it was a rainstorm. And anyway, so now this is sort of 3 hours in. Um, I'm sort of talking about a little bit of the stuff that I was going to talk about when in my in my planned video. And my planned video was going to be, about dealing with the current chaos, which would have included the cluster bomb thing. But as I tried to type in certain things into the title of this video, um, it wouldn't allow me to do a video. It said, "Oh, sorry, something has happened with your video. Try again." So I typed in something else. So what I originally typed was cluster bombs, semicolon, why U.S. has them in the first place. And I tried that in the title. Wouldn't take it. Sorry, your video won't work. Okay. So I had to start over. I put a new title in. But anything that I've said cluster bombs, semicolon, why the United States is involved, why the US has them, and none of those would work. So then I said, all right, I'm tired. I typed in cluster bomb, semicolon, and hit enter. And the video came up. So I was being censored by the statement in the title of this video. It would not allow me to use cluster bomb and anything related to the United States. So when I just typed in cluster bomb, I went, okay, here we are. So, but in the long and the short of it, it kind of shows in the chaos of the world what a clusterfuck is going on. And if anybody's really upset, now, if they send them bombs, I'm already pissed that they want to send them or the fact that we still have them. But I kind of got a feeling that the cluster bombs are already on the way. I do. Why? Because Joe's selling it. And if he's selling it, that means somebody is behind him pushing this. They've got to get rid of stock. So they're loading them on a sea, whatever transport, and they're on their way because somebody doesn't want to store these buggers anymore. And I would bet you that they show up somewhere in the near future. And I will gladly be wrong in this. But I got a bad feeling that some of these bombs are already in transit. And Joe is the front man for what's going to happen. I pray that I'm wrong in this because it sort of woke me up. And the thing about Joe, anyway, I haven't talked about him much. But, some of the stuff that's going on, like the hair sniffing, he's being allowed to sniff hair. The people who are directing the lineups and stuff. I know I talked about this for an hour before, but for those of you who came in late, you know, the people who are directing how the mug shots and how the videos are set up, those people are guilty of providing Joe with hair sniffers. They are. And I'm wondering where the children go. And I will say this again, there are children that have been lined up. Joe has sniffed their hair and gotten very close. It's been very uncomfortable. Where are those children? Are those children part of the trafficking? Because it has been known that they will show the children on video, and people around the world can bid on the children. And then the children who are with whoever, they just disappear afterwards. So as a journalist, I would want to know first who the children are, why are they on stage with a sniffing president, and where did they go afterwards? Did they go back home? Did they go to school? Are they orphans? Did they make it back to the orphanage? Where did the children go and where did they end up? I want to know where some of these girls are that were sniffed 10 years ago. Are they still alive? Did they go to college? Are they in therapy now because of what happened to them with Joe sniffing their hair? And so I don't think there's enough follow up with some of these children and some of the hair snipping thing. I think there's more to it. There are some other conspiracy theorists who talked about it a couple of years ago, but nobody's paying attention to them. And I don't know where those folks are. They've kind of just sort of disappeared. They were very outspoken about it. And I'm kind of outspoken about it too, but what good does it do? But watch and see what happens. Where did them children go? And why are they up there in the first place? It's sort of like, why do we have cluster bombs? Why are there children up there for Uncle Joe to sniff? Anyway, I'm repeating myself again after all these hours, but I do continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and there's many blessings in the universe. We just have to learn how to accept them. And with all the chaos and all the craziness, take a deep breath and consider first, oh, they want to give the bombs away. But okay, why do we have them? Anybody asking that question? If you're in a chat room with somebody else or something, ask, why do we have them to begin with? That's all. Why do we have them? Well, I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. We should send them to the Ukraine. Why? Because we don't want them anymore. Oh, so you want to be connected with potential murder on any? Yeah, but it's the Ruskies. But how do you know? Because 10% of the time, not all these bombs work. So you drop 1,000 bombs and 10% don't work. That's 100 bombs just laying around to hurt somebody else. That's not a good idea. That's not a workable plan. And we need to stand up and say no, you know. So, yeah, I do continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings still out there in the universe, despite all this chaos that's going on. And say a little prayer for me today. I love you too, Witch Moon. I got water therapy at 2 this afternoon, and I hope to be there. I hope to make it, and I hope to get through it. Because last time, after I did 30 minutes of all these it was great. But I could barely walk that when I got home. So, but anyway, say a little prayer that Uncle Dave can make it through his hydrotherapy today and get there on time. I don't care about late being home, but let me get there on time and go bobbing up and down like I'm supposed to. So I love you all, and I do continue to pray for you folks. Steve, I hope it's good to, yeah, it's good to see you too. I was going to call you earlier, but like I said, it started raining, and then I just fell asleep. I didn't feed the dog until 1 o'clock this morning. I was really embarrassed. Duggar was like, "Okay, Dave, I understand," but I was out, buddy. So anyway, I love you, and have a great Tuesday. I guess it's going to be, and we will see. Oh, I'll be live tonight with Robert V on his channel, and we can chat again then. So y'all have a good day, and I'll see you later. So cheers.